Today we have Rain Elizabeth Stickney. She is a spiritual counselor and meditation teacher in private practice. She's actually been in practice for over 15 years teaching meditation, so I thought she would be the perfect person to come talk with us today. Rain has a background in psychology, both a bachelor's and a master's degree, and she really focuses her work around the four pillars of human experience: body, mind, heart, and spirit. Welcome, Rain. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Emily.
I remember speaking with you. You said you're like a lifelong meditator, which is shocking. Not many people can say that, including myself. I didn't come to meditation until I was in my 20s. So I'm
Mhm.
curious how that even came into your life so early.
Well, it was really due to my parents and whatever natural inclinations that I was born with. And the juxtaposition of those two are that my parents met studying Tibetan Buddhism, and I was a surprise baby to them. And so from conception onward, I was with meditating parents. And what I remember is even as an infant, which is rare to remember things back into infancy, but it happens. I remember being in that state of awareness very consciously and without words, because before a baby can sit up, they're not likely thinking in words, but the resonance of presence are my earliest memories. And then witnessing my parents meditate and being with them as they would sit on their cushions and have their quiet time. And they were so sweet that they wouldn't really allow themselves to be distracted. So I got to climb all over them like they were jungle gyms. And my father was a photographer, so he had these really cool camera cases with velvet insides. And I would just play around these two meditating adults. And it instructed me to meditate throughout my life.
I'm curious, being raised that way and having such an early awareness of presence, if you noticed how you approached the world or thought through things differently than others, like at a young
Mm-hmm.
age, like with your
Mm-hmm.
friends. Did you feel very different in how you looked at the world?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. And there was a time when my life changed many times throughout my childhood, but there was a particular moment where I moved from my father's house to my mother's house. They did marry and they did divorce, and so they ended up with two different households. So I moved from my father's house to my mother's house, and I had gone through a tremendous hardship, and I was only about 9 years old. And one of my new friends at my new school was going through a hardship, and she was so sweet and really looking to feel better, and she would cart over all of her My Little Ponies and stuffed animals to my house and ask if she could live in our garage because she was so unhappy at home. And she could not live in our garage. But what I decided to do was sit her down on the sidewalk, on the curb, and counsel her about looking up and having hope. And who knows how it will change, but it will change. And I'll be your friend and I'll help you. And we would cry and share our stories. And, she was younger than me. She was 8, I was 9. I was naturally drawn to motivating others to believe in themselves and in the magic of the world and of life.
Mm. It's a really powerful statement to be able to say. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Still true.
I love that you are helping people engage in meditation and learning how to find presence. And I know that a lot of people that I talk to are very hesitant to meditate. I hear a lot of, I know I should. I know I should. I just forget. I know I should. I just like can't stand it. I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. Um, I know I should, but I don't want to. Everybody knows that there are benefits, and maybe you can help us remind us what some of those key benefits are, especially for busy, stressed out, overwhelmed women.
Mhm.
And what are small ways to get started that don't feel, this is a big question, I'm looping a couple of things in here, but
Mhm.
what is a way for people to get started
Yeah.
that isn't so daunting?
Right.
Like, do we have to meditate for 20 minutes to make a difference?
Mm-hmm. So I heard the why question, like, what is the benefit of meditation? And then I also heard the how to get started question. How does a person begin, even if they don't really want to, but they're having the thought or the experience that they need to, or there's some sort of drive to do it, but they have resistance? Are those the two questions?
Those are the two so far.
So far, yeah. So the health benefits, the physical health benefits are many, especially if a person chooses a form of meditation that truly works for them and ignites a relaxation response. And that relaxation response is the antidote to the stressed out person who is likely in some version of the flight, fight, fawn mechanism that we all have inside of us that is part of the sympathetic nervous system. The opposite of that is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the reason why those fancy words are important are because our nervous system is built into two tiers. And when we spend too much time in the stressed out part of our physiology, there are health problems that occur. Our body gets inflamed. Our body doesn't circulate blood as well. Our body's not oxygenating itself as well. So many things. And then eventually our thinking can deteriorate and we won't have that clear thinking that we all enjoy and we're all capable of. And over on the other side, when we are able to ignite a relaxation response, then things are working really well in the body. It's our natural response that enables us to rest and rejuvenate and relax and even be creative. And beyond clear thinking, we can enjoy what's happening in our minds rather than, I'm having a really angry mind or angry thoughts. In a relaxed state of being, the physiology is naturally producing good feeling sensations, good feeling emotions, good feeling thoughts. And in that relaxed state, if something difficult were to come up, there's this space to address it in a healthy way. So maybe some sadness comes up, there's space to be with that sadness and maybe have a good cry or reach out to a friend. So if meditation is allowing someone to relax, the health benefits are many. Pain is easier to tolerate or it goes away. Digestion is better. The body can absorb nutrition better. We just have a better time if we know how to relax. So there are many kinds of meditation. And if meditation is stressing a person out, there's probably just another form or another teacher that could work better. So my why for meditating is that I really enjoy it. I'm in the pleasure part of meditation. But when I find myself in a stressed out moment or having a really tired day, or I'm very cranky, or I'm having a health problem. A couple of years ago, I was having very low blood pressure, for example. I turn to meditation to help right what got topsy-turvy in my body. And that naturally affects my mind and my way of being in the world.
Fascinating. And so I'm interrupting your responses with the questions with another question. Is just lost track. Oh, so I'm curious when you say like you were having low blood pressure and you tune into your body to help right it. It made me think of just simple things like getting sick. Is that
Mm-hmm.
also the first like quote unquote medicine that you turn to feel well?
It is one of my medicines. Yes. And I have others too. Gratitude would be another example. But the medicine of meditation naturally allows the body to go into its innate healing process that we all have. And it's the same innate healing process that chiropractors tap into, osteopaths tap into, naturopaths tap into, and Western medical doctors, when there's the knowledge, that the body is a self-healing machine. And so what do we need to do to support the body to heal itself?
Awesome. So, what are easy ways for people who are feeling resistant to it? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just makes my skin crawl. How do we
Mm-hmm.
start to get some of those benefits?
Yes. So I love to suggest to people truly start with 1 minute. Try 1 minute of silence. And you can do that by putting on a timer for 1 minute, and there'll be some sort of sound at the end of a minute. You can do that even by counting to 60, which is not the same as silence, but it gives a person to count to see how long is 60 seconds. How rushed am I through that counting? Do I forget to count? Do I lose track? There's a bit of an internal processing if a person chooses to count for themselves. There could also be the roundabout 1 minute where a person just chooses to be silent and it's going to be around a minute, but who knows how long it is. But just that act is a simple act of will, allowing the whole person to be present all at once for the experiment of what happens when I'm present with myself.
And describe a little bit about that minute and what is
Mm-hmm.
happening during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you talk about being present with yourself, um, that can look a lot of different ways, right?
Mm-hmm. So once I suggested this to a client who had never meditated before. She was a spiritual counseling client. The way I work with spiritual counseling is through the whole lifespan and in honor of the whole person. So it can look a lot like therapy. It can feel a lot like therapy, but I'm always holding a spiritual perspective at the same time of whatever is being healed up. This client had some habits that she wanted to let go of. She had never meditated before. They were pretty ingrained habits. And we decided to try 1 minute of silence as a practice of meditation to see what would happen. Because one of the things that happens when somebody is breaking habitual patterns is being quiet for 1 minute. You're not doing the compulsive thing. Even if it's just for 1 minute, the person is deciding, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to write down a note. I'm not going to check the calendar. I'm not going to call out to my child or partner or workmate. I'm actually just going to be quiet. So she did this. I actually didn't know if she could. I wasn't sure if she was going to interrupt and say something, ask a question. She was quiet for 1 minute. And at the end of 1 minute, she said, wow, I just got a taste of myself. And so, what can happen for a person? We all have different experiences, but what can happen is that when all of the hubbubaroo externally stops, a person gets a taste of who they really are, inside and outside and all at once. And it might take longer than a minute. So, another jump up would be 3 minutes. And I love 3 minutes because, speaking personally, what happens for me in 3 minutes is 1 minute to settle down, 1 minute to get really present, and 1 minute to have a consciousness shift where I actually feel my mind begin to be aware of itself and function differently and in a more positive way. So, positive meaning loving, compassionate, spacious, accepting, ready for anything.
Okay, I want a little taste of myself. um, would you be so kind to guide us through a 3-ish minute
Mm-hmm.
meditation? That'd be
Yes,
amazing.
absolutely. So I welcome you, Emily, and everybody who's listening to close your eyes, or if you don't want to close your eyes, just find a gazing point in front of you. This would be something to look upon that you can soften your vision. So you're looking without looking too hard. And now take a deep breath. Take another deep breath and allow your shoulders to drop. Breathe easily and notice your mind. Breathe naturally and allow your whole body to feel heavy. If you can move your breath down to your belly, do that. And if not, breathe in whatever way feels good. And notice your heart. And now let go of anything I have said, any instruction. Be yourself and notice anything you would like to notice. Notice where your attention is drawn. This free space of noticing is like a dog happily running in a meadow, just jumping to and fro, chasing bugs and butterflies, hiding in the grass and popping up. Allow yourself the same freedom. And continue to breathe easily and naturally. And gently place your hands on your heart. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes or raise your gaze in your own way and your own time.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Did you get a taste?
I got a taste. Yes. And truthfully, the more and more that I meditate, it's still not a daily practice for me, but it's a very regular practice for me. Um, I enjoy it more and more. I started as very resistant as well. And
Mm,
um, resistant in just that it's been something that's been in my life for a long time, and I'm slow to make it a daily practice. So there's resistance there, right? Uh, but I notice, but I enjoy it more as I'm doing it. And I get a little deeper and a little quieter faster. The benefits are, I definitely notice the benefits within my day now. And then when I meditate, and then as I'm meditating more and more frequently, the benefits extend. It's
mm-hmm,
not just that day, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because there's a memory that happens. It's like a somatic memory, but it can be a mental memory or however a person identifies, and it can be easier to go back to that place of presence. It's always available. And sometimes we just need to remember the route or the bridge or the connection that dropped us back in to embodied presence, to being conscious of whatever anybody would like to be conscious of.
Yeah, I see that. What it has really, I think what's been most impactful for me with meditating is the relationship to my thoughts.
Mm,
I feel less like my thoughts are running the show. and more like I'm running the show and I'm an observer of my thoughts, and that is
Mhm.
such nice distance to have. Like that
Mhm.
separation is has just reduced my stress drastically because I can kind of see where the stress is just coming from
Mhm.
overthinking, overcomplicating, these other outside
Mhm.
aspects or inside
Mhm.
aspects.
Mhm. Yes, and there is another benefit to meditation. There are many benefits, and I probably can't name them all today.
Yeah.
But I was just speaking with this gentleman. Um, there's kind of a backstory about who he is, but let's just say that he's a person who loves being outdoors. And I was surprised to learn that he was a meditator. And he's a person who skis, cross country skis, mountain bikes outside almost all day. And he said of his own accord that after taking up the practice of mindfulness and meditation, when he's out on a trail, he likes to ski really fast. But because he has this practice of presence, he can very consciously reach down with his hand, pick up a stick, throw it off of the trail, all in the rhythm of his skiing without falling, without doing anything other than just swooping down, picking up the stick and throwing it to the side. But he said to be able to do that is so tricky because if I'm not being mindful, I mess up. I can't
Mm-hmm.
get it. I miss it. I fall. Something happens. But the practice of meditation gives him the clarity of mind to use his body exactly the way he's intending to do this quick movement successfully.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not just in sports, but this is true of all peak performance activities, like cooking dinner really fast in a kitchen that is busy with family or whatnot, and not dropping a plate or a noodle. There are all sorts of peak performances every day, but also people on stage or people who are in competitions or people who are creating great bodies of work can really use presence to be mindful of how they are in their creation process.
So is there anybody that doesn't benefit from meditation?
No, but that's an opinion. So, and you and I were chatting earlier, and of course, it's important and responsible of me to mention the contraindications. And there are times that meditation will inflame a person's anxiety, or if they have a severe psychological disorder that feels really true for them, that they know they're working with. Um, there are some moments that meditation can cause the kind of awareness that creates too much hyperactivity in the mind, and the mind can become flooded with images or hypervigilance. Um, it isn't that there are people who cannot meditate, it's that if meditation is causing an internal inflammation, it's important to notice that and address it and find the right person to help, let go of the practice, find a different practice that works better. We're all built a little differently, and it's important to consider how meditation is affecting a person through and through.
So if somebody has tried meditating and it made them irritable or annoyed in the process, uh, maybe a different kind of meditation would be the way to handle that.
Yes. An example is that some people have the image in their mind of meditating on a cushion, sitting still, and that's their understanding of meditation. And that is one form of meditation. And it is helpful for some people. But if a person is getting agitated in their practice and they're doing something like that, they might benefit from going outside and walking barefoot on the grass very slowly, each foot kissing the earth, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, feeling the pressure of heel to toe against ground and becoming mindful in a kinesthetic way.
Mm. And you can almost bring meditation actually to any activity you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. There are many people who are drawn to working with me who enjoy lying down during meditation. And that is not a way that many teachers teach or practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's quite lovely because it's wonderful to put the body in a relaxed state in the physical form. So the body gets to relax to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then the meditation is like icing on the cake.
I went through a period of giving myself permission to do that. And it partly came out of working with my nervous system and this feeling that I was having where I didn't feel supported. And so I noticed that if I would lay down on a surface, my entire body was supported. And I could just keep reminding myself how I had support all around me. It was so comforting, and
Mm-hmm.
it really shifted something for me.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first time, I allowed myself to do that. And I love it. I don't know why there's such a rule. I kind of understand. I understand why it's advised not to at times, but it's also a really great practice.
Right. It's sometimes advised not to because a person will fall asleep.
Yeah.
Um, a, a perspective on sleep and meditation is that if the body needs to rest, it's okay to sleep. It's the most kind thing to do. Maybe it's not time to meditate. And then a caveat is that one of the things that happens in meditation, if we are tapping into a relaxation response, is we are learning how to become more and more conscious as the brain produces more and more subtle brain waves. So if a person only relaxes when they go to sleep, and that's the pattern. I'm up all day, I'm active, I love my life, or I hate my life. I don't know. But, there's just activity during the day. And then there's sleep, and that's the only time of relaxation. Then it's common that that person is going to fall asleep during meditation because the relaxation response starts and the body thinks it's time to sleep. But then after that response is worked with for a time, a person learns how to stay conscious in those relaxed physiological states, which is really cool because there are some interesting insights that occur when the brain and the mind are relaxed, but a person is still conscious to what is happening.
That's some good neurological rewiring too. That's awesome. You're reminding me of a friend of mine who keeps herself very busy and told me recently that she does not allow herself to sit down until 8 p.m. It's like this rule she has. She won't sit down all day until 8 p.m. because she knows she'll fall asleep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that happens.
Yeah, exactly. So I can see how meditation would be a tricky. I'm just relating it back to what you said, where I can see how meditation would be a tricky thing in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you were raised seeing meditation, playing around meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have your own child. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, as a parent, um, how you bring meditation into your family.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Thank you. So I started young with my son, similar to how my parents started with me. And as soon as he was born, he always meditated with me, meaning that I don't know what his experience is. So I can't name it or label it for him. But I would meditate and I would hold him on my chest and he would be with me in meditation. And so that is something that exists for us, that the possibility, if he is so inclined, he has that already going for him. And then practically what it looks like is that any moment during the parenting day or night that I can instill some helpful hints around deep breaths or slow down or feel your body, notice what's around you. I do all of that and I really value it and it truly helps him. And all those parents out there, maybe you too, Emily, can relate to this. Whatever we say to our children, they say back to us. So I also have to be mindful of how I'm offering these lessons because he will and he does say them back to me. And when he was around 3 or 4, it was very common for him to drag out the meditation cushions, plop them on the floor, and say, Mommy, you need to meditate. Because I was probably really stressed out and trying to leave for preschool or the grocery store, or there's a
Yeah.
mess in the house. The things that stress out parents
Yep.
stress me out too. And he would call me on it. And so he's also my teacher.
But what an amazing gift for him to already feel the agency in his life that he can has a little bit of influence over how he's feeling,
Hmm.
or a lot of influence.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's incredible.
There's also a natural compassion and empathy that is built through a steady meditation practice. And I'm very proud and happy to say that my son has that. And he is the child who reaches out to a friend when they fall. I mean, he's also a kid. I don't mean to say like he's, you know, anything other than 9 years old. He is totally 9 years old,
Yeah.
but he is also very compassionate, which I think many children are. But there was a time when, back in the day when he was in preschool, that he was being misunderstood by some of his teachers. And there was a misunderstanding that maybe he didn't have empathy. And he does. And some of the other parents were so kind to come to me and share that they saw this misunderstanding happening because they knew how he was with their children. They knew how he they knew him, they saw him. And I like to remember that because anytime any of us are growing through any year or stage of development, we can be misunderstood, and we can also choose compassion. And it really does matter. And meditation is one of those ways to instill and embody compassion.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And I'm just like feeling the feeling in my heart too. It's just so, I know that to be true. That feels very true. Hmm. I think about a lot of the women that I work with and maybe the people who are listening, and a common piece I hear is like, I feel so out of touch with myself. I just don't know who I am anymore. There's this sense, as we're in like middle age, of having lost ourselves to all of life's pressures, tasks we think we need to take on. And it seems around this time there's also an awakening of like, oh wait, oh shit. Where have I gone? What is this? Who am I? And you mentioned like having a taste of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think this work that you're doing is really bringing people home to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for it. It's brilliant. It's important. You're so gifted in it. And before I ask you the final question about your morning routine that I ask all my guests, I'm curious if there is anything that you feel like is important to say that I haven't asked yet.
Yes, I was just sitting with some other helpful ways of getting started, just because there are always so many. So I'll mention a couple more.
Great.
One thing I really love is poetry. And I also love many spiritual authors and texts, but poetry is really accessible to most people. So, one way to get started with a meditation practice, get that taste of oneself, is to find something you enjoy reading. It doesn't have to be poetry, it doesn't have to be spiritual, but it does have to be something that gives you that feeling of aliveness or awakening or inspiration, something that gets you in that place where you're like, oh, yeah, this. And so read a little bit of it, like a paragraph, not long. Read a paragraph before meditation. Sit for your practice in silence, whether it's a minute or 3 or 5, however long, and then read another paragraph at the end. It's such a nice way to bookend.
Interesting. What is the purpose of that?
Oh, well, it points the mind in a direction.
Hmm.
So the reason why I don't want to assign a specific text is because we're all built differently and we get enlivened by different things. Some people will really love nature texts. And like Rachel Carson is a wonderful writer of the natural world. So, whatever it is, that feeling of aliveness fuels the meditation practice. And that, from my perspective and some others' perspectives, that aliveness is who we really are. That is us. And so, if we get to sit with who we really are for 1 or 3 or 30 minutes, and then read something at the end that continues to point us back into the world in the same vein of life, we're benefited and the whole world is benefited from that gift of just being alive fully.
Mm. Okay, that was really potent. I'm just taking a moment to soak that all in. So, for the people who are like, I've lost myself and I want to find myself, meditation is your vehicle.
It is. It really can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you
And
for
one
sharing with us. Oh,
Oh, you're so welcome. And just the last quick tip is guided meditations can be wonderful. And Insight Timer and many other free apps and so many experiences online. You can find guided meditations everywhere. And again, find something that you enjoy, not something that's assigned, something that really gets you in the place that you're feeling that remembrance or recognition, or you'll have your own words, but you know, if you know, like get the guided meditation that gives you the feeling that you want to have and allow it to guide you.
I love that. I was just sharing that Insight Timer
Mm.
suggestion with a client this morning. It's my favorite meditation app, so I'm just going to put a little plug for it. When anybody asks me, like, what's the best way to get started? If you want guided meditation, Insight Timer is fantastic. And the reason I love it is one, it's free. Two, it's easily searchable. So you can find a guided meditation, you can find music, you can find chimes that start and end. You can choose 5 minutes or like 2 hours. You can choose men or women, Christian themed, Buddhist themed. It's a, to me, it's the best meditation app out there. So I totally
Mhm.
concur with that.
A good testimonial.
I love it. I don't always do guided, but when I want guided, it's a great resource.
Mhm.
Uh, were you going to offer another suggestion?
Oh, well, I can. I can say that I'm on Insight Timer, so you can look me up there. But so in that vein, though, music is also wonderful, and ambient music is best. So something that's instrumental and not agitating the mind too much, not stirring the water of the heart too much. It's purposely soothing. I really like cello music. And there is somebody on Insight Timer called the Wong Janice, Wong Janice. She plays the cello. She's so amazing. So meditation can be accompanied by music beautifully, again, giving a person that relaxed state that is enjoyable.
Beautiful. Okay, Rain, tell me, do you have a morning routine? And if so, what is it?
I do. I begin my morning routine before I get out of bed. And I wake up. I love it when I wake up before my alarm and I turn off my alarm before it sounds. But sometimes my alarm wakes me up. It's okay either way. But the first thing I do is I breathe consciously and I take 3 breaths and I notice, what am I grateful for? And this is just a self practice. I don't tell anybody, I don't write it down. I have other gratitude practices that are shared, but this morning routine is just for me. And it's usually like, I love these soft sheets, or I'm so grateful that I got a wink of sleep or a good night's sleep. Or, it's very simple things. I'm so glad that the sun is shining today, but I have my gratitudes. And then I do a short visualization, and whatever it is that's happening during the day, I just take a moment to visualize this moment that I'm in, waking up, and just what's going to happen through the day. I kind of, if there's any rough spots, I practice grounding them out and letting them go so that I can visualize the whole day beautifully and magically. I imagine how I want to feel at the end of the day. And again, I breathe into that, and then I'm ready to get up.
Mm, love it. That is so good. I know you have a workshop coming up. Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
Oh, yes, the in person one. Is that the one? I'm so excited. So, here in Vermont, where I live, there's a wonderful retreat center called the Trapp Family Lodge. It's the same place that the Von Trapp family settled after they sang all around America. And this specific location in Vermont reminded them of Austria. So, this is the Sound of Music family. The Von Trapps still live there. And the person that I was speaking of earlier, the man who loves to ski and be outdoors, he's one of the Von Trapps. He's one of the children. He still lives there and works there. Anyway, I'm having an in-person meditation retreat for 5 days in July, July 9th through the 13th. It's a lovely setting. We have a beautiful room. We have pools and hiking trails, and we also have each other to gather together with, meditate, enjoy community, and have some very sacred experiences.
Beautiful. Sounds fantastic. And so, people, I'm going to put all the links for you in the show notes, but people can find that information on your website.
Yes,
Yes. Great.
yes. Mhm.
And on Instagram. And I will put that link on the show notes as well.
Yes, it'll be called The Healing Presence of Nature.
Mm, love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your gifts and all this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love this exploration that we get to dive into together and play around with. And I really enjoy your presence, Emily.